We're here to give you a quick demonstration on the software load for FOST, False Over Speed Trip, new software. It's going to be published as part of a Rolls-Royce Commercial Engine Bulletin 73-6060, and in that Rolls-Royce Bulletin will be the specific instructions from Triumph Service Bulletin 73-10 that will lead you through the software load process. We're doing it now to a draft copy, but the final copy will be very similar to what you see here. So we're going to show you first of all the specific equipment that's required to do the software upload. There's going to be hardware, which is displayed on the table here, and there's going to be software which will be loaded into your computer. The software has already been loaded into this particular computer. It will be delivered separately from the hardware. The hardware will come in a orange kit, and the software will be mailed with the data plate for the ECU in a separate package. So once the software is loaded on the computer, there's no requirements to continue to load the software onto the computer. So for the purpose of this demonstration, this computer has already been pre-loaded with the software. So this is a list of all the tools that are required to do this software upload. So some of these, item number 2 is a CD, so that's in the CD or in the software package, and that's already loaded onto the computer. Programming interface cable is this cable right here, T11527-4. And that cable goes on to the ECU. Another thing we're showing you is obviously how this procedure works when the ECU is not installed on the aircraft. But this procedure can be done with the ECU installed on the aircraft as well. It's written both ways. So this is installation of the connector onto the ECU. You'll notice that there's a red line on the ECU. You need to make sure that this connector is tightened down all the way such that that red line is covered. Programming interface box is the next item on this list. This is the programming interface box. There's 2 switches on there. There's a power switch, which is a 2-position switch, and then there's a 3-position switch, which points to program, which is reversionary governor, off, which is in the middle, or primary program, which is at the bottom. So we'll turn this to off and off for now. And there are 3 connectors on this box. This J104 connector is going to be where the cable we just hooked up to the ECU interfaces with the box. So we'll do that now. And then on the other side of this box, there's 3 connectors. One for the 28-volt power, and 2 9-pin serial port connectors that are identified, one for primary channel programming and primary channel communication, and one for reversionary programming and communication. This is item number 5, which is an RS-232 extension cable. So this cable has just got a 9-pin female connector and a 9-pin male connector, and that goes into this connector here depending on whether we're doing primary or reversionary. So we're starting with primary, so we'll plug that in there. The other end of this cable is going to go to the key span USB to serial port converter, which is this item right here, which is already installed on the computer. This is a 24-volt power supply, which comes in the kit in the orange case, and that plugs into the power box or the power port on this box. And then this is just an AC power cord for the power supply. It's a standard connector on this end, which goes into the power supply box. Then the other end has the North American 3-pronged receptacle for going into a plug, and may have to get an adapter depending on your location. But the input is anywhere from 102 to 240 volts. Item number 10 here is maintenance terminal, which is installed on this computer, and if you already have maintenance terminal installed on the computer that you're using, you don't need to reload that. Item number 11 is the new data files for the new software that we're loading, so that will be required to be installed on your computer once this new software is loaded. This interface cable is the cable, if you were doing this with the ECU installed on the aircraft, this is the cable that interfaces with the aircraft. User's manual is instructions for how to use the maintenance terminal, and then a personal computer, and then you'll need a Phillips head screwdriver to remove the data plate. We're going to basically do the service bulletin after we've already showed you how to hook it up for a ECU that's being done off-wing. The accomplishment instructions, again, we've already installed the maintenance terminal software, which is step 2A. We've already installed the data files, which is step 2B. We've already installed the online loader software, which is step 2C. And we've already installed the USB to serial port adapter driver software, which is step 2D. So the computer's all ready, and this all can be done prior to having access to the aircraft. So now we're going to go to step E, which is to make sure that we know which COM port the maintenance terminal and the online loader will be using to communicate with the ECU. So we've got maintenance terminal running here on the computer. So when you launch maintenance terminal, it basically comes up with a blank screen like this, with the exception of if it's your first time running maintenance terminal, then you'll have to install the password. But once the password has been typed in, you never have to put the password in again. So if you go up to File, and select COM port, you'll notice that box pops up with various COM port selections. We're going to show you an example of an incorrect COM port selection. So we've selected COM port 3 here, and then when you go to the connect button, you'll get the box that says the ECU is not responding. So we already know that the correct COM port for this USB to serial port adapter is COM port number 5. So we'll select COM port number 5, and we'll remember that COM port number 5 is what we're using because it is required for the online loader. So when we select the correct COM port, then the first page that pops up is your component serial number information page. So we're basically now going through portions of step F on the bulletin. The beginning of step F tells you how to connect the cables. We've already done that. So we've started the maintenance terminal. Again, if you get prompted for a password, you'll have to enter the password. We've selected the COM port, which in this case is COM port 5. We're noting that it's COM port 5. And we're going to verify with maintenance terminal the component in the component serial number screen. That's the screen that's showing up now. We're going to record the current ECU software version. So it can either be 257-5356, or in our case it's going to be 257-5358. And we're going to use the appendix sheet, Appendix A, which is at the back of the bulletin. This is basically a checklist that you'll go through as you do this bulletin. So we are doing step 2F number 22. If you'll go up here, you can see that this is software version 257-5358. The supplemental ID is 211 alpha. And so we'll go back to our appendix sheet and we will check that box to confirm that we've done that. Alright, so step number 23 is to record all the component information from the screen onto our Appendix A service bulletin record sheet. So we go up here and get the ECU serial number. In this case, we don't have a serial number because this is a developmental ECU, but you in the field will have a serial number written there. And basically you'll fill out all this information. Engine serial number, these are all fictitious serial numbers, but you would write them down here on your Appendix A record sheet. And fill out all the information for this particular record sheet. Alright, so once we record all that information, we're going to click on OK, and that will lead us to the ECU summary page, and there will be numerous faults and current faults for this particular case when the ECU is not connected on the aircraft, and these are all faults because there's no harnesses connect to them. But the next step on the bulletin is to go to Engine History and hit View. So I'll click on Engine History up in the top menu and View, and that will pull up the engine history list, which will look something similar to what you see here. And then we're going to go ahead and write down all this information on our Appendix A. So I'll do that now. So we have recorded the information here on the engine history data. In all likelihood, there will be NP run limit peak and NP run limit time will be 0. In your case, this is a developmental ECU, so these numbers are not representative of true engines in the field. Similarly, NP LMPK, NP LMT, TM, in all likelihood will be 0. Overspeed counter should be 0 in all likelihood. And the number of events here, the NP LM EVTS, that is the strike counter. So that number could be 0 or could be non-zero. The maximum limit there is 6. The NP run limit events, that should be 0, as well as the NP max limit events. If either of those two are non-zero, then there has been exceedances in your turbine, and you'll have to deal with that under separate maintenance. So the next thing we're going to do is disconnect exit maintenance terminal and reconfigure for the actual software load. So we'll just go up here to File and click Exit to cancel the maintenance terminal program. Alright, so we've just exited maintenance terminal. Our ECU is already connected, so we're going to skip paragraph G, which goes through the connections of the cables, and we're now going to move on to paragraph H, which is reprogramming the primary governor. So you connect the equipment as described above. We'll go to our switch box, and we're going to set it to primary program. So that's the full down position because we're programming the primary channel. Then we're going to turn the power on that box. Then we're going to come back over here to the computer, and we're going to look for the subdirectory called C/temp/EMC35_TTOLLI, and this is a subdirectory that has been set up with the initial loading of the software earlier in the bulletin. So we're in that directory here, and we're going to go down here to the Start shortcut.
Wait a minute. Go back. Okay, there you
And then we'll double click on the Start, and this box will pop up. So that dialog box pops up as shown here. We're going to click Yes. And now this is where we have to physically type in the COM port that we use with maintenance terminal. So in this case it's going to be COM 5. So we type in 5. And then we're going to click OK. And we have successfully made communication with the ECU using the online loading software. If we would have been unsuccessful in making connection, you would have gotten this particular box to show up. In all likelihood, that could happen if you have the incorrect COM port selected. And we now have the dialog box shown in the service bulletin. Step 11 is going to say click on primary, program primary, which is already highlighted, so we're going to click OK. And it comes up with, it has identified which software is currently loaded in the ECU. And it's going to be either 5356 or 5358. In our example, it's 5358, and we're going to click OK on that box. Now we get the dialog box that says a software file must be selected to load ECU primary channel. So we'll have to navigate to the correct directory to get that software. So per the bulletin, it's in the C temp Bell 407 EMC 35 program files. So that's a different directory that's still in the temp folder. Again, this has already been loaded on per the instructions earlier in the bulletin. We'll double click on that to go into that directory and look for the file 257-5400.oll. So we'll highlight that, click open, and the box will pop up as you see here, stating that you're going to upgrade from 5358 software to the new 5400 software, and we're going to click yes to begin that process. So right now the ECU is, again, there's a box that pops up. It's going to take a couple minutes for the ECU to erase the current software and prepare to load the new software into the ECU. So after that screen that says please wait a minute or two, it'll automatically jump to the next screen, and this is the screen showing that the new software is being loaded into the ECU, and it will progress along, so it should take 6-7 minutes, and you can see the progress both numerically and as the green bar shows. So the bulletin reminds you to move the cursor every couple minutes just to make sure that no screensaver issues pop up and stop the program from continuing to load. In addition, when we start this whole loading procedure, it's strongly encouraged that you block out 20 minutes, half hour to do this without interruption. So as we're getting down here to the finish, you'll see once it gets to 100, it took a little bit less than 6 minutes. The screen will pop up, and then it'll come up and say that the primary channel has been successfully loaded. So you'll click OK, and then the ECU or the program will verify that it loaded the correct software. For the bulletin, then, you will mark down on Appendix A and check the box showing that the ECU software version is indeed correct. So we'll check that. Then we'll click OK, and the next thing that will pop up is the supplemental ID, which is Echo 844, and per the appendix, that's the correct number that we're looking for. So we'll check the box to verify that. So we've just done in the actual bulletin, we've done step 20 and 21, and we'll click on OK once again, and it'll say that the ECU primary channel program is now complete, and it'll take us back to the initial sign-on page. So we are complete for loading software to the primary channel, but we also have to do the reversionary channel, which is next up. So now we're going to reprogram the reversionary channel. And per the bulletin, one of the first things we have to do is move the 9-pin serial port connector from the J102 port to the J103 port. So we'll do that now. So what that means is we have to disconnect, and we're going to hook on to the one we were on, J102 for primary, and we're now going to J103 for reversionary.
Sorry about being upside down.
So we've selected reversionary with regards to the connections. The next thing we have to do is set the switch on the box to reversionary program. So now we're going to go, it was on full down, and we're going to go to full up. So now we're on reversionary programming, and we're going to turn the power to the box on. And just another reminder with regards to power, make sure your ECU or your laptop computer is running with power, AC power, because you don't want the computer to have a battery go down during the middle of this loading process. So now we're going to go select reversionary program, click OK, and because we have not turned the program off, the COM port is already set up, and so it's already communicating with the ECU. And again, it's come up and it's confirmed that it's currently has reversionary software 9029. And again, it could have 9026 or 9029 depending on your part number. So we'll click OK. And then that box comes up saying we have to pick the software to be loaded. So we're in the same folder that the primary channel software was loaded in, C, temp, Bell 407, EMC 35 program files. So if you go here, that's the file location where both the primary and reversionary channel files are stored. And we're going to select 681-9100.oll. So we'll select that and go click open. And this box will come up similar to the box that came up for the primary channel saying you want to reprogram from reversionary this version to upgrading it to reversionary this version, and that is exactly what we want to do. So we will click yes, and you'll see a slightly different box. This is a box that you're only going to see on the reversionary program because it's got a different processor. It's a slightly different sequence of events that happens. But this box will pop up, and we'll take approximately a minute to do this particular step.
All right.
So once this completes, which takes about a minute, you'll see this other box pop up, and then you're ready to load the primary, the main software into the reversionary channel. So it automatically jumps into loading the software into the reversionary as shown here. So per the bulletin, this says this should take about 5 minutes, so we will check back in 4 minutes. Alright, so we're back. We're at 90+%. As a reminder, just make sure you move your mouse every once in a while to make sure the computer doesn't go into sleep mode. So it looks like it's going to finish loading here in a little bit less than 4 minutes, but so 5 minutes was just an approximation, but it'll tell you exactly how it's progressing. So after that screen goes to 100%, you saw that the reversionary channel program operation was successful box popped up. So we'll click OK on that. So now it's going to go back and verify the software version that it just loaded. And it's come back and it says the software version is -9100. So we're going to go to our Appendix A. As instructed in step 2.I14 and 15, we're going to verify that the version loaded was 9100. Then we're going to go back and we're going to click OK on the box, and then we'll check and come up with the supplemental ID. And it's just popped out with 11 Charlie 2 and 11 Charlie 2 is what is expected, so we'll check that box. Then we'll click OK, and then we'll have that box pop up that says reversionary channel ECU programming is now complete. So we will get the main dialog box that will pop up, and we'll click cancel to exit the program, and we'll turn the power off to the box. So that will complete the programming portion. Now we will verify that the engine history was transferred properly. So now we are going to verify that the software load was successful, and then the engine serial number and history was successfully loaded into the ECU using maintenance terminal. So we have to again go change the connector on the box and switch the switch on the reprogramming box. So we're going to put the connector that was on the reversionary channel back to primary channel J102, because maintenance terminal only communicates with the primary channel. And we're going to put the switch in the off/ECUIC position, which is the center switch, or center position on the top switch, and then we're going to turn power on to the ECU. So now we're going to go back and we're going to start maintenance terminal program once again. So you'll have to go to, however, if you have an icon on your desktop, or we're going down here to the start program on my computer. Again, once password is entered, you shouldn't have to enter it again, but if you're asked for it, you can enter it here. We're going to connect to the ECU, which is the upper left-hand corner icon, or you can go File, Connect. Those two are equivalent. And you will see the serial number box pop up as we saw at the beginning of the bulletin. So what we're going to do now is we're going to verify that the new software is successfully displayed and that maintenance terminal is communicating with the new software. And we're going to confirm that on our Appendix A, paragraph 1B. So Appendix A, paragraph 1B says, verify after reprogramming the ECU that we have an ECU software version of 257-5400 with a supplemental ID of Echo 844. So we'll go up here and we see the ECU software version is indeed 257-5400, and we have the Echo 844 shown as a supplemental ID. So we'll check that box. And then we're going to verify that the component information that we recorded before this reprogramming procedure began is still intact. So we will go back to the appendix sheet of the service bulletin that we filled out, and we're gonna look at all this information, and we're gonna compare. And if the information in the ECU is indeed the same as what we wrote down, then we're gonna check the box. So we're doing a compare straight across. All these parameters are indeed the same. So we will check all those boxes to verify that that information is still valid and was not corrupted during the software loading process. So again, we'll go to hit OK there. And again, we're going to get numerous faults here. But we're going to go check engine history. So we're going to go again back to the bulletin. We're going to go at the top of M term. We're going to go to engine history and view. And then here we have the parameter list that we copied the information down at the beginning of the bulletin, and we're going to verify that those numbers are still the same. So here we are looking at the engine history and confirming that the numbers are the same. So we got engine run time, NP run limit, peak, the time numbers, starts are the same, overspeed cycle is A, engine run counter, page 2, NPLMPK 159.48, 566.59, 289 overspeed events, 2 counts, and then 0, 0, and false. Again, this information is not representative of a typical engine. You should not have 289 overspeed counts in your data. So anyhow, we verified all that information is good. And then going back to the bulletin, there's additional instructions for if you have an earlier version of software, which would be the 5356 software, because that did not have these variables called NPLM, EVTS, and NPRLM, NPMLM, or NP exceedance indicators. So you'll have to verify that those values are 0 when you load the new software. And then additionally, if you have any engine strikes, turbine strikes in your engine and you are running the old software, you'll have to transfer the number of strikes that are recorded in the engine logbook into the NPLM EVTS parameter. So we'll show you how you would do that. If you go up to engine history and click edit, so we go up to engine history and check edit, then we'll look for the parameter you want to change, which is NPLM EVTS, and we'll highlight that, and we'll go over here to the edit, and it says it'll show you the current value, which is 2, and we're going to make that 4. So we enter in 4 and we hit OK. And it now shows that the old value is 2 and the new value is 4. And you'll click OK. And you'll see this bar come up showing that the new value was loaded, and then it'll tell you to cycle power to the ECU, so you'll click OK. And what you'll see here is that the NP-LM EVTS is still 2. That's because I haven't cycled power. So my cameraman will hold on there. I will cycle power. So power is off now. You'll see the parameters disappear. Power is turned back on, and now you'll see that the value is 4. So if you have version 5356 software, you may have to edit the number of NP-LM EVTS based on the number of strikes in your on your turbine. So if you once you're done with that, we'll just exit from maintenance terminal again, file and exit, and turn the power to the ECU off. And now you're done with the loading and verification of the software, and you can disconnect the equipment and put all the pieces back together on the aircraft. One of the things we didn't discuss is removal and replacement of the data plate, which is also detailed in the instruction booklets or in the service bulletin.